My name is Hannah, and my life never began like the stories with happy endings. My father died when I was still a baby. A few months later, my mother ran away with another man and left me behind as if I were something she could simply abandon. But there was one person who never left me. My grandfather, Walter. He wasn't wealthy. He wasn't famous. He wasn't an important man in the eyes of the world. He was the janitor at my high school. The man pushing a yellow cleaning cart through the hallways, mopping floors, and emptying trash cans. To everyone else, he was just the janitor. To me, he was everything. Every morning, he woke me up for school, made breakfast, and worked long hours just to keep a roof over our heads. Yet none of my classmates saw that. The only thing they saw was his job. And no one mocked us more than Olivia. She was the most popular girl in school, beautiful, wealthy, and always surrounded by admirers. Making fun of me became her favorite hobby. Whenever I walked past her in the hallway, she'd loudly say, "Does anyone smell that? I think the janitor's granddaughter just walked by." The laughter would follow instantly. As the years passed, the bullying only got worse. They called me Mop Girl. They joked that my clothes smelled like cleaning supplies. Many nights, I cried myself to sleep, not because I was ashamed of my grandfather, but because I hated the way people treated him. Then graduation day finally arrived, the day I had dreamed about for years. That morning, I watched my grandfather take out his old gray suit from the closet. It was worn and outdated, but it was the best suit he owned. He spent nearly an hour ironing it and polishing his shoes until they shined. When he looked at himself in the mirror, I saw pride in his eyes. "Today is a big day, Hannah," he said with a smile. I nearly cried, because he seemed even happier than I was. But the moment we entered the auditorium, the familiar laughter returned. Olivia and her friends stood near the entrance. One of them pointed at my grandfather and sneered. "Wow, looks like Hannah's grandpa finally found something to wear besides his cleaning uniform." The group burst into laughter. I felt my grandfather's hand tremble slightly. I squeezed it and whispered, "Don't worry, Grandpa. Once I get my diploma, we'll leave and never come back." He forced a smile, but I could see the sadness in his eyes. Deep down, I wished everyone knew who he really was. A few minutes later, the ceremony began. As expected, Olivia was called to the stage first to deliver the valedictorian speech. She walked up to thunderous applause. Then, something strange happened. She stood behind the podium and froze. The room slowly fell silent. For the first time in my life, I saw Olivia crying. Not a few tears, real tears. She wiped her face and spoke in a trembling voice. "Before this ceremony continues, I need to tell you something about Hannah's grandfather." My stomach tightened. I thought she had found a new way to humiliate us in front of everyone. But her next words changed everything. 2 years ago, my life wasn't as perfect as everyone thought. The room became completely silent. My father was on the verge of bankruptcy. We were close to losing our home. Every night was filled with fear and arguments. Then she looked directly at my grandfather. One evening, after sports practice, I stayed behind at school. I sat alone in a dark hallway crying because I felt like my entire life was falling apart. Her voice broke, and that's when he found me. The audience held its breath. He sat beside me for 3 hours. He didn't ask embarrassing questions. He didn't judge me. He simply listened. Tears streamed down her face. That day, he told me that life is like a dirty floor. Sometimes people walk all over it, but it can shine again if you keep cleaning it. Around the auditorium, more and more people began wiping away tears. But the biggest surprise was still to come. The next day, my family found an envelope of money at our front door. It helped us buy food and pay important bills. Then she looked directly at Walter. And today, I discovered that he was the one who left it there. A wave of shock swept through the crowd. I later saw him paying for groceries with coins he had saved in an old container. That's when I realized he had given my family his own savings. The room was completely silent. Then Olivia said the words I will never forget. The man I mocked for years is the man who saved my life. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Olivia stepped down from the stage. She walked through the rows of chairs until she stood directly in front of my grandfather. Looking him in the eyes, she said, I'm sorry. I bullied Hannah because I was jealous. I was jealous of the love you gave her. Tears filled her eyes. You are the greatest man I have ever known. Then she bowed her head in respect and started clapping. 1 second later, another student stood up, then a teacher, then a parent. Within moments, the entire auditorium was on its feet, everyone applauding. Not for the honor students, not for the graduates, but for the man in the old gray suit, my grandfather. For the first time, he stood taller than ever before. He was no longer just a janitor, no longer the target of jokes and insults. He was a hero. On the drive home, he held my hand and smiled. Looks like the floor is very clean today, doesn't it, Hannah? I laughed through my tears, and in that moment, I understood something important. A person's value is not determined by their job, but by their heart. And there is no title in this world I am prouder to carry than one simple title: the granddaughter of the greatest man I have ever known.
If this story stayed with you, if it touched something deep inside you, please leave a like and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Thank you for being here.